Okay, let's really talk about Promise.all. There's a lot of misconceptions. Promise.all is used to await the results of an array of promises, but you can also use non-promises. 99% of the time, it's used with the keyword await. Now, how it works is that it actually calls its promises or whatever you put in the array in the order that you defined it. So it'll call P1, P2, and P3 synchronously. And then it's going to wait either for all of them to resolve or just until any one of them rejects. If any one of them rejects, the code actually stops working and your script actually exits. If they're all resolved, the return value will be an array, and the indexes will actually be the return value of all the resolved promises in the same order. Okay, let's see how that works. Let's say we have these three functions that return promises, except for P3, that just returns an object. Now, what if we want to store all of these return values inside of a variable, but we want to await all of them? How can we do that? Let's do function await all promises. And then what am I going to do here? Well, let's just do const data is equal to the keyword await, and then capital P promise dot all. So this means the dot all method lives either on the promise constructor or the promise constructor's prototype. And remember, dot all takes in an array. What are we going to pass it in? P1, P2, P3. Is this right? No, because right now we're just awaiting the function definitions, which makes no sense. These functions only return promises when they're called. Now, P3 returns a regular object, but since it's inside promise of .all, this object would be wrapped in a promise. Okay? So now it's asynchronous. Okay, so we have all of this, and then let's just console.log an object. Let's have this call data with data. Then let's return data, and then I'm gonna call this down here, and we're gonna see what happens. Oh, forgot the async. Okay. Now notice it took a while because this waited 3 seconds. And if you notice, since one of them rejected, the code actually stops. This part didn't even run. There's no console.log. Let's change this to resolve and see what happens. 1, 2, 3. We get the same thing back. Let's look at this. Now, you see that it's an array. That's because Promise.all returns an array. Okay. If we open up the array, we see that the return values are in the correct index. So right here, we put P1 in the 0th index. When Promise.all did its magic, it put the resolved value at the same index, even though it took longer to finish. Okay. So Promise.all only takes as long as the longest promise you have that needs to be resolved or rejected. Okay, so while it waits for this P1 to resolve, we said that it calls P2 and P3, right? How can we prove that? Well, we can just do console.log. Let's see, P1, and then we can just copy them down here. P2 and P3. See, so we see that it called these actually synchronously, right? They appeared right away. And then it awaited everything. It saw that, oh, they actually are resolved. So I will return an array with those values. If one of them rejects, let's say we reject this instantly. See, it rejected also instantly with the value. Okay, so what if we have 2 rejects? What happens? Refresh. See, it only catches the first one because it calls them in order, but this one did not reject for 3 seconds, and this one rejects right away. So we get P2 rejected, and your code exits.